State Bank in the background. That's Paul Long riding the little tractor on the right float, and his dad, Ralph Long, on the float behind the horses, and they are promoting soil conservation. 1955 Ringgold County Centennial. That's Percy Push Skinner in the wagon with his mules, and behind it is 121 North Taylor Street, Miller Produce, who you can see sold Staley feeds. On the left, the Ringgold County Record News office. I'm guessing this photo was taken in 1907 when the Ringgold Record merged with the Twice a Week News to form the Record News. And I believe that is the first issue of the Mount Ayr Record News being held up there. This building was built in 1881 and is still standing today. And in fact, it just got painted white. Now all we need is some Record News lettering. North Taylor Street, Mount Ayr. This photo appears in the March 12, 1915 edition of the Mount Ayr Record News and shows the horrible street conditions of that time. 1 year later, this street became brick. And this is also a beautiful view of the business houses that were on both sides of North Taylor Street. This is North Taylor Street, about 1937. On the far right, we see the Mount Ayr Record News office, and just a year or two earlier, this building got a new facade. The middle building was Hayes Maine's Chili Parlor, and on the left was John Hall's Barber Shop. He moved in 1938, so we know this is before 1938. This photograph was mailed to the Mount Ayr Record News by a museum in Alexandria, Minnesota. They were able to read the Mount Ayr Record News sign and knew where the picture belonged. Thanks, folks. Clyde Brand at his service station in the early 50s. Across the street, we see Prue Dunphy Funeral Home. On the far right, we see a Red Crown gas pump. Clyde was at this station until 1990. All right, this filling station was built in 1927 on North Taylor Street, and here we see it as a Sinclair station. Gene Hannon operated this station for several years, and this photo was taken for publication in the Mount Ayr High School yearbook, the Aryan, as the sponsors' pictures were presented in the yearbook from 1962 to 1967. This is probably 1965 to 1967 photo. Good graphics. 1962, Marvin Reynolds left and Sheriff Elbert Strange, right, are encouraging people to vote yes on the swimming pool bond issue. It did pass, and mission completed, guys. Thanks. These fellas were with the Ringgold County Saddle Club. 1932, Gasoline Alley, built by George Rogers. This station was located 3 blocks east of the southeast corner of the square. The Rogers, George, and Keith built a new station 1 block south of the southwest corner of the square in 1941. Gasoline Alley in its second location after it was converted into a home. It sits at 405 West Adams, originally built in 1932 by George and Keith Rogers. It was used as a filling station until 1941. And this photo is about 1935. It is the West End service station owned by Day Schaefer. Orr Fisher is the one that painted the sign there, and he's also the one that took the photograph. It was a promotional and advertising sign, and Orr Fisher was a real go-getter when it came to Mount Ayr being wide awake. This photo was taken about 1935 at 401 West Madison and shows Day Schaefer's filling station. The building on the far right was an ice cream shop, and the structure on the left was actually an electric hoist. And it's just a beautiful picture with a lot of vintage advertising in this photo. Red Crown gasoline.
Sesquicentennial.
Sesquicentennial.
This is a novelty postcard, actually a lithograph, from about 1910. Very humorous. And no, I'm not related to the gentleman, but this is good for laughs, and I don't care who you are. 1955 Ringgold County Centennial. Gene Trask is showing off his high-wheel bicycle on the northeast corner of the square. Behind Gene, we can see Luck and Bill's TV and radio shop, and also a partial view of the Mount Ayr Sandwich Shop. Okay, this is Arnie Combs and Lynn Shield behind the bar. And since those guys at the bar are supposed to be at work, I don't think I'll name any of them. But I think some of them are recognizable. And yeah, they should have been at work that day. Oh, Lefties lasted from 1953 to 2025. And here's Cray standing in the doorway. And this is not just a tavern, it is a Mount Ayr institution. Levon Thomas at work at Shamrock Cafe in the 1960s. Levon was known to sing songs while she worked, and her favorite song was Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. I'll have a slice of pie, by the way. 1969 bowling team of Karen Hebensberger, Betty Monahan, Sybil Kelly, Artie Weinmiller, Mary McGehee. Let's go bowling. Raymond Hutchison appears ready to teach some lessons at the Q Club Pool Hall in Mount Ayr. The Q Club was located at 122 South Taylor Street, the current location of the Creston Medical Clinic. Truman Delaney, seen in the Q Club Pool Hall at 122 South Taylor Street in Mount Ayr. Truman owned the pool hall from 1963 to 1966, and it does look like this photo was taken during that time frame. He then sold the pool hall to Lefty Geist, and it has remained in business until 1975. Beulah Hutchison performs with the Choral Club about 1970. Live music and dance and singing, very popular in those days. Midway Cafe about 1951. It was located across the alley south of Lucky Lanes Bowling. In this picture, we can see Lucille Trower, Ike McGehee Jr., Ike McGehee Sr., Ted McGehee, and Cleo, Celesta, Louisa, Flo, and Faye. Midway Cafe only lasted about another year after this picture. It was located in the Simpson Building. North side of the square in 1914, we're looking at Curtis R. Keating's Hardware Store, and just a group of gentlemen hanging out doing nothing. Gives us a good look at the clothing of the day. Notice all the men are wearing hats, and sun's shining just right, so we get a good view of everything. Back in those days, hardware stores sold paint, and you can see a Sherwin-Williams sign there below the lamp, and so you see a child's cart on the left. photo taken in 1910 of the Mount Ayr Band with Citizens Bank in the background. But you might take notice of Mount Ayr's first street light hanging in top center. Mount Ayr got electricity in 1909, and this is what the first street lamp looked like. Fred Luce, director of the Mount Ayr Band, was in that position for many years and brought a lot of music to the Mount Ayr area. It was very well respected in his day. The Mount Ayr High School Marching Band of 1964-65 is seen here on East Adams Street. Dan Sickles was the drum major, and the photographer put themselves in a very good position to give us a good view of East Adams Street and the Mount Ayr High School Raider Marching Band. 1965-66 Marching Band won the first of 3 trophies at Maryville, Missouri. Leola Minnick is the drum majorette, and Merrill saw fit to pick her up when he picked up the trophy. This is William Rieger in his music store in 1899. That's an organ behind him. Now, organs and pianos were really expensive, but they sold. Schools, churches bought them, wealthy people bought them. This is before phonographs were affordable. So the only music you could hear was live music, and pianos and organs were big sellers. 1939 photo of Fire Chief Big Ben Thompson receiving recognition for 50 years with the fire department. And I think that fire truck hung around for a few years too. We get a good look at the way that the firemen are dressed in their water repellent gear, and Big Ben does look big. This 1960 photo was taken in front of the Mount Ayr Volunteer Fire Department building and shows a rescue unit, a brand new rescue unit. Prior to 1978, ambulance service was taken care of by the Mount Ayr Volunteer Fire Department and Rhodes Wilson Funeral Home. This is a beauty of a unit right here. Here we see Bill Stahl showing off the trophy that the fire department won for their restored fire truck. I think we've seen that fire truck before in an older picture. This was the parking lot of Pomida. The Ringgold County Sheriff's Posse, about 1963. Pictured on the back row from left are Marvin Sabatka, Murray Sheahay, Arlo Stewart, Junior Clake, Velmer Stevens, Benny Cannon, and George Daly. Third row, Gene Gunsolly, Roger Gross, Leroy Wood, Rex Sheahay, Bill Horn, Dudley Watts, and Lawrence Swank. Second row, Marvin Reynolds, Von Case, Jim Smith, Darrell Holden, Dwight Johnson, Lester Sickles, and Vern Marler. In the front row, Ringgold County Sheriff Elbert Strange, Howard Henry, Howard Paste, Claire Foltz, Ralph Brammer, and Carney Anderson. Really good shot of a big and new sheriff's posse. Ringgold County Hospital was built in 1950-51. You see there's only one automobile in this photo, and it looks a whole lot like Dr. Moffat's black Cadillac. This hospital opened in April 1951 and lasted until December 2009. Here we see it in Sheldon Heights. The first baby born at the Ringgold County Hospital was Janet Elaine Dennis, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Ivan Dennis. And we see Dr. Thomas Moffat standing beside the bed. At the foot of the bed are many of the prizes that local merchants donated to be awarded to the first baby born at Ringgold County Hospital. This happened on April 19th, 1951. Ringgold County Hospital in 2009, shortly before it closed. On the right, we can see the addition that was built in 1970, 1971, and it lasted since 1951. This photograph was taken in 2009. It's the interior of the Ringgold County Hospital, where the wall was adorned with the portraits of Dr. Charles Lawhead, Dr. Frank Madison, Dr. Dwayne Mitchell, and Dr. Roy Fell. H.H. Wilson had this house built in 1914, 1915, and it is today the Routh home. It is still just as beautiful as when it was first built. We see this picture was taken shortly after completion, as the landscaping has just been done, and this was the third house built on Shellway Drive. This house on Shellway Drive was built for Howard Tedford in 1916. The firm that designed this house also designed a lot of courthouses all throughout Iowa. Bird, Proudfoot, and Rawson. And this is a beautiful house. Mr. Tedford's wife saw a house like this when she was in France, and she enjoyed that house so much she wanted one built just like it. And she got her wish. And the house is still standing on Shellway Drive. This is 202 East Jefferson, about 1914. At this time, it was the home of R.E. Smith, who was a local real estate agent. The house was eventually sold to Burritt and Mary Ann Leeson. Mary Ann Leeson, you may know, wrote a book called The Early History of Ringgold County, which came out in 1936. R.C. Smith liked this house so much that he had a house built in Sheldon Heights on the exact same floor plan, and that house is at 116 Shellway Drive. Both houses still stand today. This house on Shellway Drive was built for Frank Sheldon in 1913. Frank Sheldon was president of the Mount Ayr State Bank, and it is a beauty. 501 North Fillmore Street in Mount Ayr. You're looking at the home of Frank Spurrier, who was the editor and publisher of the Mount Ayr Record News for many decades. The house still stands. A photo taken about 1900 of the George Allen home on West Columbus Street. The cow in the front yard really makes this an interesting photo, but that is either Georgia Allen or Madge Allen on the front porch. George Allen was president of the Mount Ayr Bank when this photo was taken. In 1945, there was a fire that reconstructed the second story. The house doesn't look quite the same today, but we do know what it looked like in 1900. This house at 304 West Madison Street might be the most modified house in Mount Ayr history. It was originally built as a one-story house. We see it here in 1896 as a two-story house, which it still is today. The owner back in 1896 was the mother-in-law of banker Clyde Dunning, and I think he put a little bit of money into this house. It looks very different today, but it's still standing, and it is the same house. This postcard was in Barney Horn's scrapbook. The postcard is pre-1907. We know that because of the white band on the left. It was illegal to write a message on the address side of the card until 1907. So apparently Barney Horn grew up here. This is 306 South Taylor. Very good view of it. The house has been kept up beautifully over the decades, and it is just as good looking today as it is in this photo. 106 East Monroe. The top photo was taken about 1895. The bottom photo was taken in 2003. The house was torn down in 2004. This was a boarding house, which was different than a hotel. boarding houses were for long-term guests. And this boarding house lasted from about 1892 to the 1940s, late 40s, early 50s, and still was serving as a boarding house at that time. A photo probably taken in the 1930s. This is the south end of Dunning Avenue. This house was built in 1921 by E.S. Downey. And the great thing about this house is E.S. Downey used lumber from the dismantled Mount Ayr Opera House. The Opera House was built in 1875. So part of that Opera House still lives today in this house, which is still standing on South Dunning Avenue. German House Hotel in Mount Ayr, operated by John and George German, built about 1880 and lasted for several decades. It was located about 204 North Taylor Street and wasn't torn down until the early 60s by the Mount Ayr Fire Department. Mount Ayr's first brick high school, built in 1875. And what you're seeing here is normal training. This is where the teachers went to get trained to teach in rural schools. And there were a lot of rural schools. So normal training was very popular, very well attended, and I'm sure that's what we're looking at. And it's a very good view, the only photo I've ever seen of the first Mount Ayr High School made of brick. This Mount Ayr High School was built in 1895 and only lasted until 1912. It sits on the location of the current elementary school and was Mount Ayr's second brick school. This Mount Ayr High School was built in 1912-1913. The first graduating class was 1914. And we also see the 1915 rock that has been famous for over a century. 1945, this is the school bus Jesse Anderson drove. He's got it parked on the other side of the Ford garage. He worked at the Mount Ayr Mill and Feed with his dad, and the billboards on the left were knocked down, and United Food Market built there in 1954. Mount Ayr Public School, built in 1912, 1913. This school provided the county with its first basketball gymnasium, and that was a big, big win as basketball was super popular. You can see the landscaping's just been done, so this photo was taken not long after the building was completed. All right, 1965, Mount Ayr High School gym. Texas Bob Geigel is taking on Mount Ayr High School wrestling coach Doyle Tank Thomas, and it was for charity. Proceeds went to charity, and of course Tank whooped up on him pretty good, so everybody got a big thrill. Notice the balcony in the high school gym in those days. I was gone by 1970. 1943, Ringgold County tournament basketball poster. The tournament began in 1919, and this was year number 25 for them. Basketball was huge in the old days. It brought people in from everywhere, and there was just not enough room in the building for all the people that wanted to see these tournaments. 1935, Mount Ayr High School football schedule, but this just isn't any schedule. This contains Mount Ayr football's very first night game, and that was played at Mount Ayr against Orient, and we took pleasure in shutting them completely down. Kurt Braby won the state wrestling championship in the heavyweight division in 1977. It was the very first state championship by a Mount Ayr High School athlete, and the mayor declared Kurt Braby Day. Why wouldn't he? The front page of the Record News is celebrating the Mount Ayr High School girls track state championship in 1988. This was the second state championship to be brought home to the Mount Ayr High School. This was Mount Ayr High School's third state championship, boys track in 2014. And I remember them coming in to the alumni reunion after winning that championship, bringing their banners and their prizes. That was Mount Ayr High School's third state championship. Photo appears in August 18, 1960 Mount Ayr Record News. Joe McNeil is receiving a trophy for winning a tournament in Creston. The back row from left to right are Steve Johnston, Bruce Henderson, John McFarland, Dan Scheel, Barry Monahan, Gary Reed, and Don Horn. Front row, Kenny Markley, Wayne, Tom Kelly, Gerard, Steve Jones, Jim Brandt, and Pat Irving. Way to go, boys. This 1908 Mount Ayr baseball team has some locals you may know. In the back row, we have Paul Spurrier, then Clint Allen, Stanton Tennant, Grant Hayes, Arlo Moore, and Charlie Horn. Front row, Luther Bonham, Ray Goodman, Clifford Hanks, and Charlie Rieger. Now, Grant Hayes graduated in 1908, so he was a very young man in this photo, and he would soon go off to college in Ames and finish up his schooling at Drake Law School and begin his law career in Mount Ayr after he served in World War I. Homer Holland, photo probably taken in 1899. Homer was murdered at age 21 in 1901 over a gambling debt. Prior to that, he was Ringgold County's greatest athlete, and he excelled at track and baseball. He played professional baseball. He won a lot of gold medals with Drake University, which he had to give back because he was a professional athlete. And he just made a lot of money on the side bets with foot races and other sports, and didn't end well for him. Omer Clay Varner is seen here in 1926 after winning the Ringgold County basketball tournament for Delphus High School. One of those trophies is for winning the tournament that year. The other trophy is a traveling trophy that went to the next winner every year. Varner went on to have great success at Diagonal, winning a state championship in 1938, and then coached his last few years at Mount Ayr before suffering a stroke in 1952, and he passed away in 1966. He is a member of the Iowa State Basketball Hall of Fame. This boots and shoe store was owned by William Toll, and this is a pre-1894 photo because the building burned in 1894. A lot of important people in this picture. At left, Dr. William Horn, who in 1902 built the building where the Mount Ayr Chamber of Commerce is. Also in this shot is George Allen, president of the Mount Ayr Bank, John Leinberg, who later ran the express office for many years. Just a very historic picture with a lot of important people. Cattern was a druggist. And this building disappeared in 1894. It was located on the west side of the square, about where hospice is today. This is the service station of Ames Cross, located at 1000 West South Street. Nice look at the neon and the old 7-Up sign. A lot of vintage advertising in this picture. Ames sold Skylark gas and International trucks and Willis Jeep trucks. Lynn's Texaco opened in 1989. Here we see Lynn and Cecil Dolacek promoting the petroleum marketers. And this was taken not too long after Lynn's opened. In 2003, it became Lynn Sinclair and closed in 2013. Very early photo of Fay Bryant's roller rink, later called the Mount Ayr roller rink. Fay Bryant built this in 1941, and it had a host of different owners until the 1980s, early 80s. And this was a place where a lot of people had their first date. 2007 photo of the Mount Ayr livestock barn. The cafe was run by Fay Bryant, who built the skating rink. And a lot of business took place here. A lot of meals were served there. And the building was torn down within a year after this picture was taken. August 2007, the old sale barn's being torn down, but I happened to come by at a time when the front facade had been pulled off and the original labeling of the front of the building could be seen. This was before the cafe was extended out to the front, and this is what it looked like when it was first built, Mount Ayr Livestock Market. About 1960, Lauren Weinmiller, George Irving, and Dave Irving at Irving's Clothing Store. Space was tight, and they got as much merchandise in there as they could, and they sold a lot of it too. 1940s view of Cliff Shaughnessy's barbershop. Don Richmond is in the chair, Cliff Shaughnessy behind him. Pretty rough looking barbershop, but maybe you got away with that back then. Right across the alley to the east would have been the Mount Ayr Hotel. So this is 114 East Madison. Mount Ayr Lumberyard, built in 1909 by I.J. Dalby. Dalby got his lumber experience in Kellerton, owning lumber yards over there. Later, his sons owned lumber yards all over northern Iowa and northern Missouri and southern Iowa. This photo was taken not long after the lumber yard opened. It's still standing today, but at least there's pavement out in front of it today. 1966 or 67, McCullough Implements and Motor Company has their Plymouths on display. And that building behind the cars is where Subway Sandwich Shop is today. This photo was taken about 1922, and we can't see very much of the tourist park, but I'd rather see the sign than the park. Tourist parks were precursors to motels. Motorists could park their car there, and sometimes they had a tent, sometimes they slept in their car. Tourist parks usually had picnic tables, outhouses, a water well, shade trees, and that's what they had back in the 1920s. The tourist park was hard to keep up. It only lasted about 10 years, but if you see on the left those white fence posts, today that would be where the parking lot to the Mount Ayr swimming pool is. This is the scene at Highway 2 and Polk Street. Looks like quite a mess, but Whitey Rice and Mabel McCullough had a plan, and that plan worked pretty good. This is used farm equipment, which they sold locally, but also they shipped to Western Canada in the 50s and 60s when Western Canada was exploding. The building on the lower left is still standing. Today it is Subway Sandwich Shop. So the area has been cleaned up a little since this photo was taken, probably around 1960. Okay, this photo was taken about 1924 at about 202 West Madison Street. It is the garage of Harold Shorty Davis and a beautiful White Eagle gasoline pump on the right. This building was built in 1912 by Dave Neptune as a repair shop. Harold Davis had it for many years and then moved over to Adams Street. Not a great photo, but a very historic, only known photo of Dave Neptune's building. It was tore down in 1939 to make way for the new Mount Ayr Post Office. Postcard of the Clinton Motel on Highway 2. The motel was built in 1950 and closed in 2005. These postcards promoted the business and Mount Ayr as well. Prentice Hatchery built this building in 1946. It was located just to the north of the Mount Ayr High School, and just the red and white checker just really makes this building pop out. Many of us will remember going over here for lunch from school because they had a pop machine and a peanut machine. Prentice Hatchery delivery truck in a checker red and white, just a beautiful photo. In 1919, the Mount Ayr Hotel caught fire and a lot of damage was done. The state came in and condemned the building. George Bartow, seen here, bought the hotel, fixed it back up, and brought it back to the glory that it once held, and the hotel lasted until 1985, thanks to George. This is another William Temby building, 109 111 North Taylor, built in 1892 as a post office. It served as a post office for one term and was never a post office again. The south portion of this building was a barber shop for many decades, and the north part was a tavern for a couple of decades. Red Lamb had his tavern here before he moved up the street about 1960. These buildings were cleared away for construction of the new Mount Ayr Post Office in 1939. The corner building was left standing to act as a construction office and for storage while the new post office was built. That building was built in 1875 as a bank, and this is the best picture I've ever seen of it. This is a photograph of the Ringgold County Jail from about 1920. The jail was built in 1895 and served as a jail till the new courthouse was opened in 1927. The jail then became the American Legion Post and stayed the American Legion Post till about 1978 when the new American Legion was built. You can see the street in front of the jail was once Highway 3, and that looks like a 3 on the sign there. You can also see that there's no gravel or brick on that street, so it's a pretty early photo. Don and Charles Harvey started Harvey Brothers in this building in the early 50s, and they also sold DX gasoline at the time this photo was taken. Beautiful shot. This is the last location for Freeland's department store. 110 South Taylor Street. Today the bowling alley is in there. Freeland sold out to Woodward's. but it was only there 1 year, but somebody got a really nice shot of it. Freeland sold mostly clothing and appliances, and they had been in business 58 years when they sold out. 1914, window washer washing the glass at the Mount Ayr Bank. It's a really good shot of the clock on the corner of the building, which was a big deal back in the day. Mount Ayr Bank counter checks. What I like about these is that they are predated to the decade. The top one is 1940s, the middle one is 1920s, the bottom one is 1910s, and you can see Mount Ayr Bank in 1910. It became Mount Ayr State Bank in 1915. The interior of the Mount Ayr Bank, about 1925, we see Frank Sheldon, Zella Campbell, Bernice Moore, and Claire Allen. Frank Sheldon was the president of the bank at this time, and Claire Allen's father founded it about 1885. 1960s photo of the Mount Ayr Volunteer Fire Department battling a fire at Bastow Feed and Grain. Pretty dangerous work. Tower Feed and Grain in the 1980s. This is another facility that's been made over so many times that I just don't know when it started and when it went through all its changes. But grain elevators were almost always next to the depot, and this one is. Mount Ayr Depot, about 1914. You can see the water pipe laying alongside the road. It was about to get buried before they put brick down on the street. I think the brick went down in 1916. At this time, the freight end of the depot faced the street, which made a lot of sense. You can see a farmer here is loading up his wagon from the freight room, and you see a boxcar parked on the siding there. In 1916, the Mount Ayr Depot was flipped. The freight end became the lobby end, and the lobby end became the freight room. That is Mount Ayr Power and Light to the left. 1906 photo of the Mount Ayr Depot. We are looking at the east end of the depot, back when the lobby end was on the east. This train is headed east and is steam, of course. 1917 photo of the Mount Ayr Depot. You may be wondering why the photo was taken from the rear. That 20-foot addition to the freight room was put on during the reconstruction. By now, the depot was covered in stucco exterior, had a tin shingle roof, had running water, electricity, tile floor, steam heat. It was modern in every way. And that's why we see this view from the rear. The depot is now a legitimate passenger station. Mount Ayr Depot in 1992, right before the restoration process began. Good look at the side tracks on the right side of the depot. The depot was pretty far gone. So there were two side tracks on the south side of the depot. There was a main track on the north side of the depot and a passing track on the north side of the depot. But the two of those were gone by the time this picture was taken. And the restoration process took 8 years. This is the 1913 Methodist Episcopal Church. The Des Moines Conference was holding its convention in Mount Ayr that year to celebrate the construction in 1912 of Mount Ayer's Methodist Episcopal Church, which was very big, very modern, very beautiful. Here we're looking on West Madison Street, looking west. and the crowd out front. The streets are still dirt, but the people came anyway. First Baptist Church, built in 1915. The wooden bell tower didn't last forever, but the church lasted. It tore down in 2003. Just a wonderful two-story religious edifice that is long missed in Mount Ayr. 1913 or 1914, again, we see the water pipes laying in the street, about to be buried before the street gets bricked. The church was built in 1911, 1912, and is just a masterpiece. Methodist Episcopal at that time. Today is United Methodist Church. 1980s view of the Catholic Church. It was built in 1884 for the Christians. The Christians sold it to the Catholics in 1913, and this church was in use until the new Catholic Church opened around 1992-93, and then this building was torn down in the 1990s. Lake Reservoir, about 1913, and that's the first pump house. The lake was enlarged many times, and we see very few trees in the background, and good shot taken from the cow pasture. And this view is looking southwest. Elihu Q. Martin was Mount Ayr's first mayor in 1875. No more caffeine for this guy. This is Charles Dunning. He was the first child born in Mount Ayr. He was the last child of Mount Ayr's founders, Barton and Laura Dunning. Unfortunately, Charles was born with diabetes and died at age 25. This photo was probably taken not long before he died in 1880. But he did work in his brother's bank. All three of his brothers worked in banks, and he left us early. Ithamar Bell. He was Mount Ayr's first school teacher in 1856, and he married Charlotte Swan, and they had 3 children, 2 boys, which were Randolph Bell and Walter Bell, who had a newspaper in Mount Ayr called the Twice a Week News. Randolph Bell, I would consider to be Ringgold County's first historian. So there's a lot of education going on in that family. Laura Laughlin, later Laura Laughlin Richardson. This was Mount Ayr High School's very first graduate in 1884. She later became Ringgold County Superintendent of Schools before moving on to Marshalltown, Iowa, and finishing her career there. This photo is about 1930 and shows Belle Rhodes and Dale Motzinger sitting on the running board of Rhodes' hearse, and it is huge and beautiful. This photo was taken just because it was an unusually nice day on January 27th, 1922. Fortunately, we have the names with the men. In the back row from left to right, we have Billy Finch, Alex Maxwell, Preston Reed, A.H. Bickett, and W.J. Elick. The men seated are from left to right: J.B. Warner, John Buck, J.D. Turner, Charles Knight, A.H. Hickerson, and Francis Warwick. Behind them is the north side of the Mount Ayr Square. About 1960, we see Bob Motzinger and Roland Buck and Chuck Calhoun in front of Pritchard's Auto Body on East Adams Street. No doubt they're getting ready to head to the Ringgold County Speedway. Well, I think Harold Blades is wondering how Kenny Robertson is going to get that trailer down off his roof, since Kenny's the one that put it up there. But you had help, didn't you, Kenny? Mount Ayr Air Mill and Feed, about 1940. This building was erected in 1914 as a creamery. It became Mount Air Mill and Feed in 1927 and stayed that way until 1992 in the Anderson family. Photo from about 1914, Mount Air Creamery at 118 West Adams Street. This creamery was a co-op. It lasted a few years and then became a store that sold pumps and farm supplies. Notice two very early metal grain buildings on the right. Beautiful picture. Only photograph I've ever seen of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument with no courthouse behind it. So we know this picture was taken between 1922 and 1926. In 1926, construction started on the new courthouse and it was finished in 1927. The Soldiers and Sailors Monument was dedicated on July 4th, 1918. Iowa Governor Terry Branstad is giving Jake Daly yet another award. How many of those things have you won, Jake? Jake could easily be called Mr. Mount Air.
Everybody that lives in a small community is very fortunate, whether it's Iowa, Mount Air, Missouri, Nebraska, Kansas, or any rural area. We were able to walk wherever you want to go, swimming pool, school. Everybody's going to look after you. Small town people have small town ways. 98% of them